They say you should never burn bridges. But what happens when someone lights the match while you're still standing on it? I spent 6 years building the logistics network for Apex Global. I wrote the code, I optimized the routes, and I saved the company $12 million last year alone. I was untouchable, or so I thought. Then came Veronica, the new vice president of operations. Within 48 hours of stepping into the building, she called me into her office. She didn't shake my hand. She didn't ask about my team. She simply slid a piece of paper across her mahogany desk and said 3 words that changed everything. "We're letting you go." But Veronica made one critical mistake. She didn't realize that the entire logistics system, the brain of the company, wasn't owned by Apex Global. It was licensed by me. And when she fired me, she didn't just lose an employee, she triggered a digital kill switch that would bring a billion-dollar company to its knees. This is the story of how I didn't just leave my job, I took the company down with me. To understand the disaster that was coming, you have to understand the system. My name is Marcus, and I'm a systems architect. 6 years ago, Apex Global was a mess. Their trucks were always late, inventory was lost, and they were bleeding money. I was hired as a consultant to fix it, but their internal software was so old it couldn't be fixed. It had to be replaced. The CEO at the time, a good man named Mr. Henderson, didn't have the budget to build a new system from scratch, so I made him a deal. I told him, "I will build you a custom logistics engine, Project Hermes. I will write it on my own time, on my own server. In exchange, I keep the intellectual property rights, and I lease it to Apex for a fee." Mr. Henderson agreed. We signed a contract. It was a standard software licensing agreement. As long as I was employed and paid, Apex had the right to use Project Hermes. If my contract was terminated without cause, the license would expire immediately. For 5 years, it worked perfectly. My system automated everything. It tracked every truck, every pallet, every driver. Apex grew from a regional player to a national giant. I was promoted to director of logistics. I felt secure. But in the corporate world, security is an illusion. Last month, Mr. Henderson retired. The board brought in new blood to shake things up. Enter Veronica. Veronica was the type of executive who thought efficiency meant firing the people who actually did the work. She had an MBA from a top school, but had never stepped foot in a warehouse. Her first week was a bloodbath. She fired the warehouse manager, cut the IT budget by 40%, and mandated unpaid overtime. The morale in the office tanked. I tried to warn her. I booked a meeting to explain how fragile our supply chain was. I walked into her office with my charts and data. She didn't even look up from her phone. "Marcus," she said, cutting me off before I could speak, "I've been looking at your salary. You're the highest paid director in this division." "I built the system that runs this division," I replied calmly.
She finally looked up, and her eyes were cold. "It's just software, Marcus. We have IT guys in the basement who can run software. We don't need a director for that. We need to lean out. Effective immediately, your position is redundant." I was stunned, not because I was fired. I knew corporate life was brutal, but because of her arrogance. She had no idea what she was doing. "Veronica," I said slowly, "are you sure you want to do this? Have you read my contract, specifically the clause regarding the Hermes system?" She laughed, a dry, dismissive laugh. "I don't read contracts for technicians, Marcus. HR will handle your severance. You have 1 hour to clear your desk and leave your laptop. That's company property." I stood up. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I simply nodded. "Okay, if that's your decision." I walked out. I packed my box, I handed my badge to security, and then I went home, sat on my couch, and waited. The chaos started at 4 a.m. the next morning. You see, Project Hermes required a daily authentication key. Every 24 hours, the system pinged my personal server to check if I was still an active employee. If the employment status was marked terminated, the license key would revoke itself. At 4:01 a.m., the morning shift drivers at the distribution center tried to log in to get their routes. Access denied. At 4:15 a.m., the warehouse scanners stopped working. They couldn't scan a single barcode. License expired. Contact administrator. By 5 a.m., hundreds of trucks were sitting idle in loading docks across the country. Frozen goods were melting. Urgent deliveries were stalled. The entire supply chain of a billion-dollar company had simply frozen. My phone started ringing at 5:30 a.m. It was Dave, the night manager. "Marcus, thank God, the system is down. Everything is dead. We can't move a single box. What do we do?" I took a sip of my coffee. "I don't work there anymore, Dave. Veronica fired me yesterday." There was silence on the line. Then pure panic. "She did what?" By 8 a.m., the panic had reached the executive floor. My phone rang again. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again and again. Finally, I answered. "Marcus?" It was Veronica. Her voice wasn't arrogant anymore. It was trembling. "There's a glitch in the system. We need you to come in and fix it. Now." "I'm afraid I can't do that, Veronica," I said. "I'm not an employee. I'm not authorized to touch company systems." "Don't play games with me," she screamed. "We are losing $50,000 an hour. Get down here or I'll sue you." "Sue me?" I chuckled. "For what? Complying with my termination? The software license clearly states that usage rights are tied to my employment. You fired me. The license ended. You are currently using pirated software, which is a federal crime. I suggest you stop using it immediately." I hung up. It took 3 days for the dust to settle. In those 3 days, Apex Global missed critical deliveries to their biggest clients, Walmart and Amazon. The penalties for missing those deadlines were in the millions. Their stock price dropped by 14%. The board of directors called an emergency meeting. They finally read my contract. Their lawyers told them the hard truth. I was right. Veronica had fired the owner of the company's nervous system without securing a replacement. They had 2 choices: spend 6 months and $20 million building a new system from scratch, or beg me to come back. They chose option 2. I received a call from the chairman of the board. He didn't scream, he apologized. He offered me my job back with a 20% raise. I told him, "No thanks, I'm starting my own consulting firm. But if you want to license Project Hermes, my commercial rate is $500,000 a year, plus a $200,000 setup fee." They signed the check the next day. As for Veronica, she was escorted out of the building by security before the week was over. The official reason was gross incompetence. The rumor is she's practically blacklisted in the industry. Nobody wants to hire the VP who accidentally shut down a national supply chain. I cashed the check, upgraded my server, and took a month-long vacation to Italy. The lesson here? Before you fire the quiet guy in the corner, make sure he isn't holding the keys to the kingdom. What would you have done in my position? Would you have helped them or let them burn? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story of corporate justice, hit that like button and subscribe to Corporate Checkmate for more stories from the workplace underground. Thanks for watching.